all this area is within the Anacostia watershed. It's really funny because if you ask people if they live in a watershed, a lot of people will say no. But the answer is yes. Everybody lives in a watershed. So a watershed is just the area of land that drains to whatever point of interest. So right now we're standing in the Sligo Creek watershed. So everything upstream of here is draining into this area. So over the past few years, a group of scientists, we've been trying to understand how dissolved organic matter dynamics vary across different cities and also how it varies within certain cities. So the point of this is to try to understand where does organic matter come from, what happens to it when it's in streams, and how does that vary from one city to another or from one stream to another within a city. This summer, one of the things that we did was some exploratory research in Baltimore where we did a similar approach to what we've been doing in that larger multi-site project where we went and sampled 53 streams across the Baltimore area to try to see how organic matter concentrations and also quality varied across those streams. So what we did is we measured the optical properties of the organic matter, and then we pulled as much spatial information as we could from all these watersheds. So what's the land use in the watershed? How much impervious surface is there? How many stormwater outfalls are there? What kind of best management practices have been used in those watersheds? Who's living there? Do we see correlations with demographic variables like income or race or ethnicity? And we found some really interesting preliminary things. So one of the things that we look for is this index that tells us how relatively microbial or terrestrial organic matter is. And we think this is potentially going to be a good tracer of wastewater influences, which are likely to be more microbial. So what we found is there was a really strong correlation between that metric and income. Very interesting, right? Where higher income areas had more terrestrial and lower income areas had more microbial, suggesting that if the watershed had more low income households, that they were being burdened with more waste, more likely human waste. So we're really interested in this, and it turns out that that income was not what was predicting it. Obviously, money doesn't cause more like terrestrial organic matter directly. But what we think is the intermediary is actually the implementation of best management practices. So we learned two things from this. One, the best management practices are doing something, right? They might, and we don't know what the mechanism of that is. Is that because it's reconnecting water with more terrestrial sources of organic matter? Is it because it's actually influencing how much wastewater is actually getting into the system? So we know that those are doing something. So that's great, A+. But we also know that they're not being equitably distributed across the landscape. And so that's a really big problem. I think especially with urban streams, they're never going to be a pristine ecosystem. They're just really impacted. And so we have to think really carefully as a society in terms of like what we want the goals to be for our urban streams. What do we want them to do for us? Because they won't be a pristine natural stream. We can have pristine natural streams elsewhere, and these streams, I think we can allow them to work for us.